Can we really afford to have our offensive line stability compromised right before training camp kicks off? Los Angeles Rams starting tackle Alaric Jackson has officially avoided criminal charges in his domestic battery case, though city officials are keeping the file open for future reevaluation. This development is massive because it puts Jackson's availability for the upcoming season in total limbo despite the lack of a conviction. And honestly, the more details come out, the harder it is to ignore what is going on behind the scenes. My name is Lucas. Hit that like button, subscribe, and comment your city below. Let's get into it. Los Angeles Rams starting offensive tackle Alaric Jackson has successfully avoided criminal charges following his domestic battery arrest earlier this offseason, according to NBC4. This development marks a pivotal moment for our offensive line as we prepare for the upcoming campaign. Jackson is currently entering his third season with the organization, having proven himself to be a vital piece of the puzzle after the Rams solidified his future with a 3-year, $56.3 million contract extension. Fans care deeply about this situation because Jackson was previously suspended for 2 games in 2024 for violating the league personal conduct policy, making this his second serious brush with authority in a short span. Back in early June, Jackson was arrested on felony domestic battery charges after an alleged altercation with a pregnant woman who claimed he left scratch marks on her arm while attempting to take her phone. Although the female accuser withdrew her request for a permanent restraining order last week, officials have not closed the file, instead offering Jackson alternatives like community service and counseling. This is where it gets real because while the lack of formal charges suggests the NFL might lean toward leniency, the league baseline suspension for such domestic matters is 6 games. We feel a mix of relief and genuine anxiety as a fan base. We want to see our starting left tackle on the field to compete for a Super Bowl, yet the pattern of behavior is impossible to ignore for any loyal supporter. If the NFL decides to move forward with a suspension regardless of the legal outcome, how exactly will the Rams front office scramble to protect our quarterback when we report to training camp on July 25th? And can this offensive line truly sustain its production if they are forced to rely on last-minute free agent alternatives? The most startling detail is that although Los Angeles officials declined to press formal criminal charges against Alaric Jackson, they are keeping his file open for potential future reevaluation. This legal limbo stems from an incident in early June where the offensive tackle was arrested on felony domestic battery charges involving a pregnant woman who allegedly captured an altercation on her phone. Jackson, who signed a massive 3-year contract extension worth $56.3 million, now faces the reality of mandatory community service or restitution instead of a courtroom trial. And this is the part that gets me, because we know the league has a baseline 6-game suspension policy for these types of cases. The history here is deeply concerning for our organization, especially since Jackson already served a 2-game suspension back in 2024 for violating the personal conduct policy regarding a non-consensual recording. Behind closed doors, Sean McVay and the front office are likely weighing the immense risk of relying on a player who continues to find himself in such precarious situations. While they hope he remains our starting left tackle to help us chase a Super Bowl, the lack of a clear resolution forces the team to keep contingency plans like Joe Noteboom ready at a moment's notice. Even though the accuser withdrew her request for a permanent restraining order, the NFL operates under its own strict set of standards, often disregarding the absence of a criminal conviction to pursue independent investigations. It is a frustrating position for the fan base, as we want to focus on training camp, which officially begins on July 25th. The front office knows that if the league decides to hand down a lengthy suspension, our offensive line depth will be tested immediately against the toughest opponents on our upcoming schedule. The uncertainty surrounding Alaric Jackson creates a precarious situation for our offensive line as we approach the season under the leadership of Sean McVay. While the decision from Los Angeles officials to avoid filing criminal charges offers a momentary reprieve, this remains a significant distraction that keeps our front office under constant pressure. The part fans are not ready for is the reality that even without criminal charges, the NFL maintains its own disciplinary protocols. Jackson already served a 2-game suspension in 2024 for a previous conduct violation, and with the league often favoring a baseline 6-game suspension for domestic abuse cases, his status for the opener remains in limbo. If Jackson faces further discipline, our depth chart takes an immediate hit, forcing the team to rely on contingency plans like Joe Noteboom or exploring the free agent market. This lack of certainty ripples directly into our schedule, complicating preparations for critical early matchups against our NFC West rivals, where protecting our quarterback is paramount for a deep playoff run. If our starting left tackle is sidelined, the entire offensive rhythm could stumble, directly threatening our ambition to compete for a Super Bowl title. We invested heavily in Jackson with a 3-year, $56.3 million contract extension, making his availability crucial for the financial and structural stability of our roster. While the accuser withdrew her request for a permanent restraining order, the league will likely perform its own exhaustive review before rendering a final judgment. As we head toward training camp reporting on July 25th, the questions from the media will only intensify, forcing coach Sean McVay to navigate these distractions while trying to maintain locker room focus. We need our best players on the field to secure our standing in a competitive division, and this situation remains a weight hanging over the entire organization. The decision by Los Angeles officials to decline criminal charges against Alaric Jackson provides a necessary layer of stability for our offensive line as we approach the season. By avoiding a conviction, the organization maintains its preferred starting left tackle, which is a massive boon for our Super Bowl aspirations given his 3-year, $56.3 million extension. Keeping a cohesive unit intact is usually the difference between a playoff run and a disappointing finish. However, the downside remains significant because this is not his first brush with the league's personal conduct policy. The potential for a 6-game suspension looms over the franchise, casting doubt on our preparation for July 25th. Here's what people are missing when discussing potential replacements. While some point to Taylor Decker or Joe Noteboom as safety nets, the reality is that losing a starting lineman of Jackson's caliber creates a massive gap that depth pieces rarely fill effectively. Other teams often struggle to maintain rhythm when the interior or edge protection faces sudden forced shuffling. The way I see it, the narrative that a suspension is unlikely just because criminal charges were dropped feels a bit optimistic. The NFL has shown in recent years that they operate under their own internal investigative standards, independent of city prosecutors. Personally, I think it is dangerous to assume the league will simply look the other way, especially with his past history involving a non-consensual incident. We should be prepared for the worst even if the legal path cleared up for now. Balancing the need for a championship-level roster with the ethical standards expected of professional athletes is a delicate tightrope. We want to win, but the team's reputation matters just as much as any individual performance on the field. Ultimately, management must stay proactive rather than waiting for the league to drop the hammer on our lineup. The news regarding Alaric Jackson puts the Los Angeles Rams in a precarious position as we prepare for the upcoming campaign. From a franchise perspective, this situation underscores the ongoing challenge of balancing competitive championship windows with the rigid expectations of the league's personal conduct policy. While avoiding criminal charges is a positive development for Jackson personally, the fact that the file remains open suggests a lingering uncertainty that could hover over the offensive line all season long. And the more I look at this, it becomes clear that stability at left tackle is non-negotiable if Sean McVay wants to return this team to the Super Bowl. Fans should feel a sense of cautious relief but remain tempered, as the NFL has a history of pursuing independent disciplinary action regardless of local legal outcomes. We must be prepared for the reality that the league might still intervene, meaning the depth behind Jackson becomes just as vital as our starters. It is a difficult cloud to hang over such a talented player, yet we have to prioritize the integrity of the team above any single roster spot. As we head toward the reporting date of July 25th, the organization faces immense pressure to manage these distractions while maintaining focus on the larger goal. This situation serves as a stark reminder of the fragile nature of NFL rosters, where one incident can shift the entire trajectory of a season. With the legal process in limbo and the league's history of suspensions, do you believe the Rams should sign a veteran tackle now as an insurance policy or stick with the current depth chart? If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Ram it, I'll see you in the next one.